Good to go.
Okay. All right, I'll call this meeting to order. Time is 5:02. And if you came tonight expecting Mayor Shankar to be in the chair, unfortunately, he is not. He had surgery last week and he is recovering at home. So I get to preside over this meeting. So the first thing I need is the approval of the agenda. Motion that the agenda for the public meeting of February 9th, 2026 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Kirkby and seconded by Councillor Campbell. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interests amongst the council? Seeing none, we can proceed with the public meeting. And you would want me to read off of this one, please. Okay. The motion that the public meeting regarding OPA 2025-01 and ZBA 2025-02 for the property 0 Thomas Street, Prescott, be opened. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor Young, Tracy Young. And Mr. Fisher, municipal planner, will you speak to the issue?
Leave.
Right. You should have to call the question.
Hmm?
You should have to call the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rookie. I need to call the question. So all in favor of that motion? Thank you very much. Carried. All right.
Right here.
Okay.
Oh, it's up there? Oh, I see.
They were working.
Okay, all right.
Sharing one tonight.
Okay. Would you prefer to move over here? Or?
No, I'm fine. I have the slides in front of me here as well too, so.
All right.
So thank you for coming to the public open house in regards to the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 0 Thomas Street. These two applications were submitted by EFI Engineering on behalf of Northern Cables Inc. Oh, you got the next slide up already. Look at that, you're ahead of me. Official plan 2025-01 is an official plan amendment to the town of Prescott official plan to change the subject property designation from residential to R1 special policy area. This is to harmonize the designation with the existing Northern Cable lands and the industrial development to the north and east of the subject site. Zoning bylaw 2025 supposed to be, well, 02. Zoning bylaw amendment to the town of Prescott zoning bylaw number 09 2009. And this is to change the subject property zoning from low density residential to a light industrial M2 zone, again, to harmonize with the Northern Cables campus. Next slide. Okay. Signage and public notification. Public notice was mailed to registered landowners within 130 meters. The Planning Act requires 120. However, just because of the nature of the lots themselves, we increased it to 130 just to ensure that all property owners are going to be notified. Signage was posted on the subject property as well, or as close as possible. The first signage was actually on Walker Street at the very end where Thomas Street would technically start. There was another signage along Wood Street and another one along Susan Street. A public open house was held on January 6th, 2026, from the period of 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. here at the town hall. The open house provided general information regarding the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. And the applicant, their agent, were here and discussed with the public that were in attendance. And we received some feedback and applied some of the feedback to our recommendations within the report. Site characteristics, the subject site that is subject to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments here are actually 5 separate lots with a combined lot area of 0.4 hectares. And it technically has frontage on an unopened and unmaintained road allowance known as Thomas Street. The following uses are adjacent to the subject property. To the north, an unopened road allowance and an industrial use, which is Northern Cables. To the east, again, another industrial use, which again is Northern Cables. To the south is residential uses, and to the west are residential uses. So in regards to policy and regulations review, the first step that we need to do is look at the provincial planning statement, which was created in 2024, and it replaced the provincial policy statement. So the PPS provides direction on matters of provincial interest related to land use planning and development, which are intended to be complemented by local policies addressing local interests. So in essence, the policies within these plans are then applied to county or municipal official plans, and then those official plans then are used to create the zoning bylaw themselves. So the policies that were actually reviewed in particular to this development is the settlement areas, which are section 2.31. We looked at the employments, which is section 2.8, airport rail, marine facilities, because there is a railway corridor just to the north of Northern Cables. And that is section 3.4. Land use compatibility, which is section 3.5. And again, sewage, water, and storm water, which is section 3.6. When we dive a little deeper into some of those sections, the settlement areas, it is recognized that settlement areas have a mix of uses, not just strictly residential, but is intended for in some commercial, some industrial, business parks, institutional uses, that sort of thing. Now, employment areas, it takes in consideration existing business areas, existing industrial parks, that sort of thing, and try to encourage the redevelopment and industrial or employment to be promoted within a municipality. Airports and rail, like I said, there is a CN rail corridor, which helps support the industrial uses on the north and south side of the railway. And land use compatibilities, which is probably the key portion that when it comes to development is what most municipalities or most planners would review. And that's just to ensure that what is actually being proposed is compatible and won't actually is compatible with the existing uses of the neighborhood and won't cause any negative impacts onto neighboring residential uses. And sewer, water, and stormwater, because this is within a urban settlement area and has full municipal service to the subject site, section 3.6 would be required. So based on the above, staff supports the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment as per the consistency with the provincial planning statement policies. And we look at the official plan. Boy, you guys are right ahead here. So the current official plan designation for the subject property is residential. And you can tell on the drawing there, the blue outline is the Northern Cable site. It's zoned as designated as R1 special policy area. In regards to the zone or the official plan amendment, we have to review the official plan in its entirety. However, there are some policies that we have to address that are particular to the proposed development. So what we've looked at here is the growth management, the land use patterns, compatibility, built form, economic development, housing, residential, the R1 special policy area, which is actually Hyde and Wood Streets, employment areas, development constraints, environmental and natural heritage, transportation, public service and utilities, stormwater management, waste management, implementation tools, land use controls, official plan amendments, planning applications, the required information, and also the public consultation and notification policies. So when we look at the official plan amendment itself, it proposes, again, to change the designation of the subject property from residential to the R1 special policy area. So the change in designation will not hinder future redevelopment to comply with the new development policies, which are within the R1 policy area, which are intended to, as redevelopment happens in the R1 policy area, that the redevelopment of these industrial sites are to be developed into something that is more compatible with the adjacent residential uses or provide additional services. So they may, like a quasi industrial, or it could be commercial or other residential, that sort of thing. However, under section 1 of the R1 policy area, there is a section that deals with expansion of existing uses. It is understood that existing industrial uses can be redeveloped on existing lots and they can be expanded. They typically it's within the existing boundary themselves. However, if additional lands were acquired, then again, we would look at the expansion rules here and apply those policies. In regards to the expansion, we have to ensure that, again, the compatibility between the adjacent land uses, or in this case, sensitive land uses, which would be the residential to the south and west, have been reviewed, and we have to ensure that no new negative impacts would be applied to those lots outside of what's considered good design or good planning, and within or within special conditions within site plan or site specific, or actually through site specific zoning, these things can be applied. Now, in regards to impacts, we have received some letters from adjacent neighbors in regards to privacy, the industrial use getting closer, the removal of trees, and screening, that sort of thing. When we were reviewing the official plan, we kind of looked at the fact that regardless if there's no new increase in traffic or there doesn't appear to be any major negative impacts based on the current OP and zoning, we felt it was to try to minimize potential impacts on the neighbors was to suggest that a site-specific zoning, which we'll talk about under the zoning section, be applied to address a lot of the neighboring concerns. And I'll get to that in a minute. So this development, it will be subject to site plan control. The applicant has provided some very draft concept drawings, which will just provide a real understanding of what potentially could be built there under the current M2 zone requirements. Through the site plan control application process, once the applicant has created a more final plan, they would be submitting a stormwater management study, landscape plan, noise and vibration study, traffic impact brief, and a photometric plan, which is to address light spillage onto adjacent lands. If any other studies or updated information is required through this process, we would staff would be asking them to provide that information. Again, all that would be reviewed at site plan, and we would ensure that the official plan policies and the zoning regulations, which would also require them to comply with the proposed site-specific requirements. Staff would ensure that all that would be applied through the site plan process. So in regards to the zoning bylaw, bylaw number 09/2009, the subject area actually is zoned residential R1, and the adjacent properties are zoned M2. And the zoning bylaw amendment is to bring the subject property into compliance with the industrial use to the north and east. So the amendment itself, again, it's just to expand the Northern Cables campus. The proposed development will be required to comply with the requirements of the M2 zone, which they've provided proof that a development could under current zoning. And they provided, again, draft drawings, concept plans, and they have also provided a zoning matrix chart, which actually breaks down each individual requirement and how they actually complied to them all. The M2 zone setback requirements are actually greater than the R1 zone setbacks. So one of the things that we considered in reviewing the official plan policies and obviously the bylaw regulations was if these 5 lots were created by residential, let's say they received the road frontage and servicing and they were developed, there's no special mechanism there to require the industrial use to be set back at a certain distance. So they're almost dealing with an existing situation where there's no buffering or lack of buffering, I should say, between the two uses. The setbacks and impacts onto the neighboring properties, even though, yes, it would be residential, it would result in possibly the removal of some or all of the trees. There's no mechanism there to try to keep the trees there if residential development was just to go ahead. Through the zoning bylaw amendment, the municipality has an opportunity to try to protect the interests of the neighbors and also try to create something which is good design and compatible. So through the zoning bylaw amendment, one of the things that we looked at was, regardless of them complying or showing that they can comply, when we look at the concerns that were raised, we are suggesting that the committee consider the following changes. That an increased side yard setback from 10 meters to 15 meters to provide a greater separation distance from the residential properties, and an industrial building from the rear yards of the residential lots that actually front onto Wood Street. So this would push any potential building farther away from the residential uses that have been established along Wood Street. And we also suggest that an increased setback of a landscape strip or planting strip be required from 3 meters to 5 meters from the residential properties that front onto Wood Street. And we would request through site plan that the planting strip try to maintain as much of the natural vegetation that is there, and to if they need to be thinned out, or if any need to be replaced, that some additional landscaping be provided to assist in visual buffering. On top of that, in regards to, again, visual buffering and privacy, we are also recommending that a 2.4 meter high, or roughly 8 foot high fence, privacy fence, shall be erected along the rear yards of the residential lots, which front on to Wood Street West and also on Walker Street. This, again, our standard height requirement of fencing is 6 feet. However, we're proposing 8 feet. It would give a little more privacy onto the neighboring properties. So by providing a fence and ensuring that additional landscaping buffering strip and ensuring that the increased setback is applied, this would potentially address a lot of the concerns of the adjacent neighbors while still allowing the expansion on the property itself. The other suggestion here is the use on or at Northern Cables right now is grandfathered into a 24-hour operation. However, the M2 zone only permits a daytime operation. So the site-specific zone would allow that portion of addition onto the building to operate within a 24-hour. So it would recognize the existing function that's actually happening on Northern properties, and we would tie it strictly to Northern Cables. So if new uses actually go in there, they would have to either apply for a zoning bylaw amendment or a change in that particular requirement, because it goes with that specific use. And again, all remaining M2 zone requirements would then be applied. Yeah, so we have provided some concept plans for review. I'm not going to go into detail in regards to that. I will leave that up to the planners, the owner's agent, and they will again address some of the planning rationale that they've provided and some of the concept plans. Okay. Thanks. Tim?
Yep. Are you finished, Tim?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So, does the applicant or agent wish to speak? I gather you do.
Yes, I do. I'm just gonna stand over here, I don't like that.
Right.
So yes,
Murray White from
just to
ES.
introduce myself, so I'm Murray, with DFI, and I'm just really here to answer any questions, so Tim captured it all pretty well, and the concepts are there, and a few things came up in the open house that we're really open to sort of addressing, so but yeah, I think if you can see the expansion, the building itself's not going to encroach any further towards the residential. It'll just carry through on the same line. And there's a lot of parking, which also came up as being something that might be like enhanced landscaping, which Tim touched on today. And there were 3 concepts provided, which, like I said, we're happy to sort of work with the neighbours and the staff to work in the site plan process.
On the slideshow?
I'm sorry?
Were you looking for something specific to speak to on the?
No, I actually couldn't tell you. I'm just here to answer any questions, so I can take my seat again.
All right. Councillor Burton, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Councillor McConnell and on, where are you, in Florida, I believe?
I'm in Florida, yes.
Yeah. I hope you have warmer weather than we did.
It's been very cold here, but it's been very nice in the daytime.
Oh, good. All right, so we move to the next portion, correct? This portion of the meeting allows the public to provide comments or concerns regarding the proposal. The public will not have the opportunity to provide comments once the public portion of the meeting is closed. Residents must state their name and address and will have no more than 5 minutes to provide comments. And we will provide a warning when your time is almost up. If there is a collective group providing comments, we ask that a representative speak on behalf of all residents. Please direct all comments to the chair. Your comments will be addressed once the public portion is closed. So I believe we only have one name registered,
And then 3.
and this list of 8. Okay.
I'll mark the ones that was. So not everyone wanted to speak, only 3.
Only 3 wish to speak.
Yes.
Shelley and Corey are shy, and Murray has already spoken. So, Jonathan, are you going to speak first?
I will, yes, thank you. So my name's John Beck. Soon will be living at 284 Wood Street West. I'm here to oppose the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments. And I just want these comments to be on public record. First of all, I have to acknowledge the staff report and the work that's gone into it. But respectfully, any recommendation before you for approval relies on deferring compatibility issues until after the zoning is approved. Now, that approach doesn't just raise legal concerns. It directly affects families like myself and my family who already live beside a 24-hour industrial operation. Now, the staff report states that compatibility can be achieved through site-specific zoning and clauses within a site plan agreement. The problem is site plan control happens after rezoning, when council's ability to control the impacts of the industrial expansion are limited. Now, from a legal standpoint, zoning is where you decide whether an industrial expansion belongs in any one place. And from a human standpoint, this really means that my family is being asked to accept the risks and hope that mitigation comes later. Now, the town's official plan requires council to be satisfied that development is compatible when reviewing the application, not after it's approved. And specifically, it mentions the need for a land use compatibility study to help with that determination. Now, I haven't seen a land use compatibility study. I'm sure you guys haven't either. I don't think it exists. So you're really being asked to decide on compatibility without any evidence. And the people who are most affected are just expected to live with the outcome. Now, the staff report also said that it's important to note that these plans may change throughout the site plan control application. Well, this is deeply concerning for us because if the concept plans can change, what you're evaluating is not a specific known proposal. You're being asked to accept an open-ended industrial permission that's right beside our homes. Once the zoning is granted, those changes to the site plan happen without any meaningful say from us. So this is why compatibility is supposed to be addressed now before rezoning, not deferred until after. Another quote from the staff report says, the additional land and proposed expansion will not result in any increase of noise that already exists on the site, but in the same section says, quote, a noise and vibration study will be required. That's pretty contradictory because if staff is confident that there's no increase in noise, why require a study? As somebody who already hears industrial noise, even with the existing buffer in place, this isn't theoretical. I mean, removing the buffer and expanding the industrial permissions has real consequences for sleep, quality of life, personal privacy, and mental well-being. So regarding lighting, the staff report says this will be monitored post-development and addressed on a complaint basis. From a policy standpoint, this isn't mitigation, right? This is reactive enforcement. From a human standpoint, it means we're expected to complain after harm occurs, after zoning has already been approved and the impacts are already being felt. And compatibility is supposed to be planned, not enforced through complaints. So what does this mean for real people, us? We live here every day, right? Like we already coexist with these industrial operations because historically there's been a buffer. This property. The proposal removes the buffer and asks us to trust the impacts will be addressed later on after the rezoning, which the decision is irreversible from to the best of my knowledge. I don't think that's very fair. I don't think it's what provincial and municipal planning policy intends for. So I think there's two defensible options for council for tonight. Option one is to deny the amendment because no compatibility between land use has been demonstrated. The staff recommendation relies on deferral rather than evidence, and the applications don't conform to the official plan. Option two is to defer the decision to a later date and require a land use compatibility study addressing the 24-hour operations. We want studies on noise, vibration, lighting, buffering analysis, and binding mitigation measures before the zoning for M2 is applied. This decision affects real people, like you're looking at us, right? Like this isn't just land on a map. So please make a decision that is defensible in policy and fair to the people who actually already live here. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ken, you want to speak now?
I think I'm Ken Beck, 268 Wood Street West, 284 Wood Street West. Thanks for everybody being here. Obviously, it would be in your backyard. I don't think there's anybody here, Leanne, Tracy, right? Justin, I know you're all for let's go. I'm married, but we live there. I've lived there for 56 years. And I don't think anybody would want it in their backyard with them, knowing for sure that you're gonna, M2 says daytime operation, and already we know it's gonna be 24 hours. The other thing, apart from the other property, which they purchased for 60,000, to the west will be, I think, Corey, you said it would only be 6 meters with the building on the west side in the open house. But anyway, I mean, all those things need to be addressed because that's, how can you make a decision? Anything that I've ever had to do, even my expansion for my storage units, and the land is already zoned for it. But Tim's right. I need that storm management. I need the engineers. I need any studies that are required to be done before I get issued a building permit. Same thing as Tim would understand with my sand pit. All those studies had to be done first before Natural Resources would actually give me the permit and pass my application. And that's what we're asking, is you can just take a look at everything, consider that we are residents, okay? Industry, I'm all for it, but it's impacting us and my family, so we have to stand up for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
So she,
Yeah,
but that's after.
but that's got nothing to do.
No.
No. Okay. Thank you. There's one more registered speaker. Alice, we haven't met,
Yes,
and I would appreciate your help in pronunciation of your last name.
of course. My name is Alice Mihailescu. It's pronounced the way it's spelled, so
Okay.
that'll help for everyone. And I really want to thank you all for having me here today. I am a lawyer. I am here on behalf of Ken and Diana Beck. And I'm really hoping to help you today understand some of kind of that legal and planning framework. I think we've heard about the real human aspects from people who live right adjacent to this property. But at the same time, your decision is rooted in planning principles and in kind of that planning act and that framework. And I'm hoping to keep my submissions brief today, but point out some of the considerations you should have. The Becks provided extensive comments, and those are in the staff report, both through a letter from myself at Denton's and a planning report that was prepared by MB1 Planning and Development Consulting. Nice long name. And Michael Barton, the author of that report, is a land use planner who is qualified and does this day in, day out, and has taken an independent look at the materials that are before you to come up with an opinion and his professional opinion on whether the application should be approved or not. I don't propose to reiterate everything that is before you. You've all read it, you all understand the human impacts, but I do want to focus on 3 particular aspects tonight. First is the nature of the applications and really understanding what they're going to do in terms of changing the official plan and the zoning. The second is this point about the informations and studies to make such a change and deferring such studies to site plan control, which under the Planning Act is not appropriate. And these are things that should be considered when we're thinking about the uses of the land, when we're thinking about the permissions, not when we're thinking about how do we actually build a building and where will it be located, but really fundamentally, what's this property going to look like in the future? This is the time at the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment stages to consider. And then I have a couple of brief comments about the applicant's planning justification report, specifically on this idea of legal non-conforming permissions and what the application is going to do. Now, I'm keeping my submissions brief to the 5 minutes, so won't speak about the facts today. You all know about the context of the property. But let's start by thinking about what the test under the Planning Act is for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. And as you've heard tonight, it really considers this provincial policies and the official plan. So in the case of a site-specific official plan amendment, which is changing it from this, residential uses to this special R1 policy, council must have regard to matters of provincial interest, ensure that the application is consistent with the PPS, that's the provincial planning statement, and otherwise conforms with the official plan and is in the public interest. Similarly, for a zoning bylaw amendment, which changes it to that M2 zoning, the test is whether the proposal is consistent with provincial policy, conforms with the OP, and represents good planning. So you'll see very similar tests and very similar considerations that we are having throughout on both the official plan, which considers the uses on the lands, and the zoning bylaw amendment, which considers, specific performance standards and what is going to happen on these lands. So just going back on those major concerns, in terms of the nature of the applications, the context of where these lands are located is important. We've heard, about Northern Cable's existing operations, but similarly, there are residential uses and significant residential uses in the neighborhood and around. And it's a major contextual piece that should be considered. The R1 special policy area that's being considered, it currently applies to the area on the north side of Hyde and Wood Streets, adjacent to the CN railway line. And I just want to quote from the official plan itself. Section 3.2.3 of the official plan notes that R1 special policy area, quote, includes scattered industrial buildings in what is otherwise traditionally a low-density residential neighborhood. These buildings had originally been constructed because of proximity to the rail line, and many of them are underutilized, vacant, and obsolete. And I'll note, this is not a controversial point. The applicant acknowledges in their own planning report that the lands have no direct frontage or access from the CN rail corridor. And the R1 special policy area is really encouraging redevelopment of the scattered industrial uses buildings. This property doesn't have any existing industrial uses. It's a vacant lot. It's zoned residential. The intention was for it to be residential. So to say that it's just a small expansion of existing industrial uses, there are two sides to the coin. It's also an existing residential lot next to pre-existing sensitive uses, residential homes, that are already there. So query, and the planning report we have goes into more detail, but query if the R1 special policy area is really meant for such lands. The effect of the applications really goes beyond harmonizing the designation of the subject property with the lands to the north and the east. It's a new expansion of industrial development onto land that does not currently have industrial uses. I briefly want to speak also about the information and studies, and you've heard from the residents tonight about many of these being, land use compatibility, the lighting study, the noise studies. But I want to take a step back and think about what the different processes are for. We speak about site plan control, but site plan control is not the stage to consider uses and compatibility. Compatibility concerns are properly considered as part of official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment stages. Site plan, in contrast, looks at what the proposed development will look like on the ground, as we've seen, the concept plans, but it doesn't consider the impact of the uses or permissions. I'll note that site plan control has a specific section in the Planning Act, which is what planners and council are bound to in terms of considering such applications. And section 41, sub 7 provides a definite list of conditions that can be included as part of site plan control. And those do not include conditions related to land use compatibility and mitigation. By the time you get to site plan, you already have permissions that would allow for industrial uses and would allow for the 24-hour operations or the setbacks. Those have already been determined at the official plan and the zoning bylaw stages. So to say that further investigation into what, impacts are and whether the setbacks are appropriate, it's too late at that point because permissions are already in place.
I just want to note that your 5 minutes is up if you could wrap up in the next 60 seconds.
Absolutely, thank you. I think, one of the things we talk about noise and the existing uses that are there, there are assumptions made that because the industrial uses comply with environmental legislation and ECA, the D-series guidelines, that it will automatically, comply later. But we have no evidence before us today in terms of that. And my final comment to wrap it up is we speak about, again, the existing industrial uses nearby and those being legal non-conforming, but this is a fresh application on a fresh piece of land. So in summary, we just urge council to really consider the planning and the legal framework, and either, based on the lack of evidence before you today, to either reject the applications, or my clients would be pleased to work with the applicant and with the town to ensure that these proposals make sense in the future.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to ask you to read the motion from council. Intended that we're going to deal with this later on?
Yes,
Joe, okay.
yes.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from council?
I'll go first.
Go first, Councillor Kirkby.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Young. Just a couple questions. When I look at the map of the new land acquired, I see that you have a current manufacturing facility, you have the warehouse, and then in the acquired land, the intent there is to build another building that either connects to existing warehouse, or is that connecting to the manufacturing, or are they all going to connect? Just a question there.
It's a continuation, so it's separate but connected building.
Okay, so will they, so they're attached, all three?
Yep.
Yep, okay. And then in that section that you're planning to build, is that going to be production or is that warehouse space? Production. And how much of that acquired land, because you've talked parking lot, how much of that would be parking lot? And obviously the parking lot, none?
Well, again, this is just a idea.
Yep.
But of course, with the square footage of the property, there's probably a certain amount of parking spaces that are required.
Right.
So they just show them there, but they're not necessarily there right at the moment.
And they'd be on the south side to the residence, or to the north of the residential homes currently there, I would assume.
That's what it shows.
Yeah.
That's what it shows, but I think there's an opportunity to move them elsewhere if it's enhanced landscaping or part of the buffer. There's other opportunities for parking
Okay.
on the site.
And the warehouse is newer, is it not? The warehouse is the newest of the building, because
I don't know what the age of that warehouse is. It's been there as long as I can remember,
Yeah.
since we purchased the existing property that we already operated.
so my question, I guess, is the new build, I mean, it will be up obviously to today's standards with the option of adding certain sound barriers inside that limits the noise from leaving the facility, right? I mean, we've come a long way in that, in noise dampening. I think that's big in the industry where, we're worried about workers' hearing loss and stuff like that. Is that something that's considered, or is it just a steel structure? And I mean, it's going to have to be insulated, but
We're certainly open to discussion if it comes up, the study, like to conform to the
To the
studies that
noise.
we have to put forward, like we're more than open to that. And it seems like an opportunity to improve the existing condition.
there's no truck bays on that side.
No.
And I read that this expansion will help them, it could lead to 12 full-time additional jobs. I read that. That's a true statement. And 45 is the current that you're employing at the facility. Just a question there to the blue one. Do you know how many are town residents? Do you have any kind of number on that roughly?
I don't.
It's quite a few.
We draw in both locally and east of here. It's an attractive location because it affords employment for people to live up and down the 401 here, as well as we have a number of people even walk for it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
All right, through you, Deputy Mayor. It's more of a comment maybe to our planners or whatever, but I never heard anything of the environmental study in all these reports and everything that came out. I never heard anything about the environment, whether on that property, there's endangered species, or if the stormwaters, if things are gonna flood, that kind of stuff. So that's one comment. And I don't know enough about your company, sorry, but you have different places, right? You have one in Brockville and.
That's right, yeah, we had head offices in Brockville, and then there's an Ottawa office and Cornwall.
All right, and is there any ability to expand those as opposed to this one in Prescott?
Oh, sorry, you're talking about cables, not EFIs. Yes, so sorry, Northern Cables have other sites, yes.
We have 2 locations in Brockville. But this Prescott facility is strictly bare wire production. So it takes all of our rod and turns it into the conductors that are required. And then our 2 Brockville locations have all the other processes. So by taking and doing an addition in Brockville does not make sense for us, because then that would lead for us to start relocating other equipment in that location.
Okay.
Hence the reason for expansion.
All right, and it's not a question either, but it's a comment that how did we end up with a residential lot with no road access? That's.
You'll have to ask one of those mayors from 100 years ago.
That's the question. And, so did you buy all the pieces of the property at one time?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and my other comment, due to the way things are changing with councils and our ability to vote on situations, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we do not have any voting once it gets to site plan control. So the only thing we can vote on is this, whether we change the zoning or not, but we cannot have any input into whether all the other site plan stuff. That's my big worry.
That is correct, huh?
That is correct, and that's a provincial mandate.
Yeah.
It's not in relation to Prescott.
Yeah.
It is of note, though, that when we're doing stormwater management, when we're doing noise and vibration studies, there are provincial standards that we have to adhere to. So it's not that you just do the study and take whatever the outcome is that whatever the study produces in terms of results, you have to meet those standards in order to mitigate, to make sure that you're only limiting those off-site effects. So it's, and that's not something that staff can override, but those are more provincial standards as opposed to anything else.
And sorry, maybe one more question.
Okay.
Does it have to be 24-hour? Does, okay. All right, thank you.
I believe Councilor McConnell has some questions.
Pardon?
Councilor McConnell has some questions.
All right. I would expect nothing less. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we have the diagram back up on the screen that shows the proposed new building? Is that possible? I don't, okay, there it is. Got it. All right. So, can you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, okay, great. The area in red, I'm presuming, is the proposed building expansion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the area to the left of that, unfortunately, the printing is so small I can't read it, but is that the existing warehouse?
Correct. So just under where it says attached addition, you can see that there is a squared area where it's pointing with the arrow, and that would kind of square off that building.
Okay. If memory serves me correctly, the official glove factory was to the north of that warehouse, and that has been torn down. But I don't see that area in an example here anywhere. My question would be, given the fact that the industrial building that was Official Gloves, and I believe Elliott Lumber building, Casket building for over 100 years to the north that is now empty, why would you not build your building so that it encompasses that previous long-term industrial area rather than abutting the houses?
A lot of the equipment that we're proceeding with, we need the length of the building to be able to install these. Some of this equipment, the lines are anywhere from 200 to 400 feet long. So with the existing building the way it is and not having to move equipment around internally, it makes more sense for us that but encroaching a little bit onto this property here, it's a much better layout and more efficient for us.
Well, it seems to me if you're looking for 400 feet, you've got the difference between Walker Street and Susan Street, which has to be considerably more than 400 feet. I missed, unfortunately, I'm coming and going again, and I'm not sure who the lady was that's last. I did catch most of her address, and it was quite interesting. But I tend to agree with Councillor Campbell, and to a certain extent, Councillor Kirkby. I think what we're doing here is we're all looking for an excuse to approve this because it's something that we really appreciate, somebody taking an old industrial building, which was at Cleveland Containers, and then expanding into Prescott Paper Products, another old abandoned building, and taking over the official glove area, which no manufacturing was going there. So we should be encouraging who is in Prescott, obviously wants to stay in Prescott, to do there. But given what I have seen and what I read today, we're looking for excuses. And I believe the could be there because I want to see it happen as well. I believe the controls that council is able to exercise over this whole project need to be exercised now rather than trust that the builders are going to do what we really want to do, because not necessarily in industrial, but in residential, the last few years, what I've seen, what we wanted to do is not what's happened at all. And once we've given our approval, there we go. We might as well just wash our hands of the whole project. So I would like to see this go ahead, but I don't think it's at the point right now. I don't think the plans are formal enough for us to approve it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lee. Tracy, do you have anything to say?
Deputy Mayor Young, are there any concerns currently with the buffer the way it is? Are there? No.
Not really.
No.
No. I mean, ever since I've been a kid, it's been like that. You know, trees have grown up, trees have died, more grow up.
Yeah.
Some of them grow out of, you know, they need to be trimmed or whatever, come over on our property. But, no, I don't really have any concern. My only concern is, which Councillor Campbell brought up, is there is contamination from the old Prescott finishing on, I don't know to what extent it is, so there is some on the Portolano property, and I don't know how far that is, you know, seeped into the ground, or not, I have no idea, but I did notice you were digging some test holes the other day, so I'm assuming that you're either checking to see the depth of the soil, or maybe even starting an environmental study.
Looking for bedrock,
And,
to see what the depths are.
right, okay. That's a concern is, you know, I mean, once you disturb it, how are you gonna contain it? It's kind of like the old Daniels Hotel there, when we dug all that out, we had to haul it to the landfill site, and then we had to put all this geotextile cloth on all the banks, so that nothing else could seep in and, you know, contaminate the property. That's where all these studies, I think, need to be done. Do these studies and consider all the things.
Yeah.
Before, like Councilor McConnell was saying, you go ahead and you say, okay, the application is approved, and then you start delving into all these, you know, this noise thing. Councilor Kirky, the thing about the noise is that how do we know for sure? You can contain it within the building. But in the summertime, when they open up a building, you know, prison, it gets pretty warm in there, right? They open the doors up. And what do you hear when you're down near prison? Because I work down there, I work in a lot of the same ingredient. When they open up the doors, what do you hear? Bang, 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 right? It's equipment working, so all that stuff needs to be addressed before it goes up and then people are opening the doors. Or they can put a man door on the other side. Put on one side or the other, but you're still gonna hear that noise. Now, we do hear some noise right now, but I've been there, the John Hart wasn't there, you know, when I grew up, but the bag factor was, Portolano was there. So I accept the fact that all those places are there. I also bought the house that I'm in because I knew that property back there was residential. And someday somebody may capitalize. Residential is huge here in town, isn't it? You know, but I know it costs a lot of money, bring the sewer and water in. So, and I mean, and I'm all for, because I work for a lot of industry, and I'm all for jobs, you know, absolutely. But, you know, we're residents too, and we live there. So is it big business and industry against the little guy? Or can we look at all this stuff, get all these studies done, and make sure the right call is made before we get into, like Councilor McConnell says, well, we gotta do this now, we gotta do that now. And there has, what about the Prescott finishing property? There's a whole thing going there. I understand that it's been looked at. Hearsay.
Chair.
That property.
Okay.
I just want to remind everybody that everybody had one opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that we can continue to offer everybody that opportunity to speak before we close the public meeting.
Leanne, did you have anything?
I did have a few questions, but they've already been answered.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any additional comments?
I think we're good there.
Are there any additional comments? Are there any additional comments? I'm required to read the question 3 times. It's not that I'm studying. All right, I'll just say one thing before we close the meeting, and that is there is no yes or no decision being made right now. Later on at the council meeting, there is a motion, and if Ms. Preston will read the motion.
Apologies. There is a recommendation to direct staff to return a supplementary report to February 23rd at the regular council meeting, incorporating questions, comments, feedback, and any applicable modifications received during the public meeting held this evening for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications for the property of 0 Thomas Street, Prescott.
Okay, so all of the comments that have been made tonight will be considered in the next report 2 weeks from now at a council meeting. So we expect to see you back here at that council meeting.
So that means, we don't have to go to the council meeting tonight.
Not unless
It's
you,
already gonna be changed.
not unless you're very bored, Ken, and,
That's my birthday, the 23rd.
oh, okay, well,
No, that's fine, I just wanted to know.
Right.
Thank you.
oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to remind council that you haven't made that decision yet. So
I
it would be
understand.
inappropriate to promise that to members of the public
I can-
before a decision was made.
All right, I understand. I promise that's the way I'm going to vote. All right, so then, is this a motion that the public meeting regarding OPA 2025-01 and ZBA 2025-02 for the property known as 0 Thomas Street, Prescott, be closed? Can I have that motion? All right, Councillor Burton and Councillor Tracy Young. Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you very much for your attendance. And Shelley, we're closed, but
One more motion.
one more motion to,
Adjourned.
So
you took my paper.
an opportunity
Okay, I'm sorry.
to speak.
Sorry.
Is there an opportunity for the planner to speak?
Okay. Tim, you want to
Yes.
speak?
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I just want to help address some of the concerns that have been brought up. It's understandable that in dealing with the presentation, that sort of thing, we try to condense as much as possible. Although it was lengthy, we try to condense what's actually in the report, and obviously the report itself tried to touch on key points and then open up for discussion for additional clarity. So I appreciate the comments and everything that have been submitted. And by the sounds of it, a recommendation is coming where we would have a supplementary report at the next council meeting, and to take in consideration a lot of these comments that have happened during this meeting. But to address some of the comments there to date, there's an opportunity here through the zoning bylaw and official plan amendments where an applicant can do the process one of two ways. One is, I have a general idea. Here's the use that I want to do. What and how can my development happen? The other way would be if they're farther along in the process of design and concept, that sort of thing, is to get a final plan and use that as a final plan to determine, obviously, what the zoning requirements and such would be applied or best applied in order to deal with to mitigate potential impacts on and compatibility issues type of thing on the neighbors. When we're looking at this proposal, the applicant has done up a couple of ideas, although they're not the final plan. And that's what I want to just make sure everybody understands. They've given us an idea of how potential development could happen under today's requirements. When we deal with the policies under the official plan and compatibility, we want to take in consideration the potential impacts and the information that we've received in writing prior to the meeting, plus at the open house. Again, we looked at compatibility and the potential impacts and tried to address those through our suggested site-specific uses. Again, we don't know exactly the type of build that would happen, but council does have a right to ask that they come back later on with a more formal plan. However, either process is still acceptable here. In regards to a land use compatibility study, the applicant did provide a planning rationale, which addressed a lot of these issues. They've done some studies, some basic studies to give them an idea of what and where the development can go. And that's, again, stated within their planning rationale. So in looking at their rationale and our rationale for planning, we feel that that has addressed the land use compatibility side of things. So we can ask for either the study or planning rationale. Virtually it's the same thing. When we're looking at the site plan process, I think, again, it's a little confusing. When we're dealing with the official plan and zoning bylaw, we're trying to create the building blocks, I guess, of what can a development happen in that particular zone. You want to be super specific, but you want to provide a little bit of flexibility and also ensure that, again, compatibility and impacts are addressed. And again, like I said, I think those our suggestions should address a lot of the issues that have come up and protect a lot of the things that are there. There's been a lot of comments in regards to not providing certain studies and everything at this point. Again, they're not at that stage yet where there's final plan. Usually once they get to that stage, that's when they start looking into stormwater management, grading, again, noise and vibration. That brings up another comment that came up, and the noise and vibration study in our report, we talk about the existing use and how the existing use is not going to potentially impact or create any new impacts onto the existing uses or residential uses. The requirement for noise and vibration study is a requirement for the structure itself. So when they're looking at creating the structure, where are the HVAC units going to be located? Where are the openings going to be located? How are these sounds from this equipment going to affect the sensitive uses next door? So at that time, they have their engineers review that to ensure the sound mitigation or vibrations from any of the new equipment that's going to be on the building be within special parameters. Okay, so it's that's typically done through the site plan process, not typically done through the zoning process. Again, the lighting plan, this is usually an ongoing issue when it comes to new developments and impacts on sensitive uses. We asked for a photometric plan just to ensure that an engineer has reviewed it and in their opinion, the lighting is not going to have negative impacts or spillage onto the neighboring properties. However, again, on a complaint-driven basis, because of the sensitive use, there may be times when an individual would say, well, those lights are still causing an issue regardless of what was done. And then staff will then, on a complaint-driven basis, address those issues. And we can always go back to engineer that has done the study and request them to re-review those lights and provide an alternative. Or if they're within the certain parameters, then, you know, we address that. Let's see here. So we talked about the buffering already. Again, the municipal staff is requesting a larger setback and also a larger landscape open space requirement, which we're hoping to maintain as much of that vegetation as possible to minimize any potential visual impacts. Again, we're asking for fencing to be required for privacy and also visual buffering. And again, through their lawyers' comments, they have touched on a lot of the requirements and the processes that planning requires. However, yes, this is the time to ensure that what they're proposing or intend to build will comply to the PPS. And again, the official plan when we're dealing with the zoning bylaw. And again, when we're looking at all those requirements, we feel that, again, they comply with the general intent and purpose of our official plan of policies and also the intent of what is stated under the provincial planning statement.
Okay, so if that motion this evening is passed to send it back, these are the comments that you will put in that report that we will review in 2 weeks, correct?
Yes, so this report that was provided is a very broad view. However, based on your decision, we will take a more in-depth rationale type of thing.
All right, so if it passes this evening and we get your report, and 2 weeks from now, if we make a decision that is not satisfactory to the Beck family, they have an option after that, do they not?
Yes. So the Planning Act does allow individual property owners to appeal to the land tribunal. There is an application and a fee, and they would be appealing both applications or one of the applications, depending on how they want to address this.
So this is what used to be called the OMB.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
All right.
Change name.
Clarify
So
whether or not the landowner would be able to make an appeal.
I think that's a legal question. I want to focus today's conversation on the applications before council right now and the decision. The legal paths and stuff like that, I would encourage the township. I'm not retained on behalf of the township and the appeal rights. There are appeal rights in the Planning Act. I think it's premature to think about what legal action the Beck family will take in the future.
Okay, thank you, Alice.
I just want to note that the only people able to speak at this point, because the public comments have ended, are members of council.
We're done. I have one quick question, a 30-second answer from Shelley. Oh, nothing to do with this.
Do so in between the break.
All right, I'll ask you in the hallway, Shelley. Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion that the public meeting be adjourned. The time is 6:20. Moved by Justin, seconded by Leanne. All right, all in favor? Great, thank you. Sorry to let that thing go on.